Drones on the farm in 2023. How are people using them? How can you use them? I'm going to talk all about it. Don't go anywhere. Hey everybody, David here from Aerial Influence. Now, who am I, you might ask? Well, we are drone dealers. Aerial Influence, the company that I co-own, we're drone dealers, so we work with all these drones that we're going to be talking about. So if you're interested, make sure you hit us up, give us a call, shoot us an email, reach out to us on social media. But that's what we do. We sell drones. But today, what we're going to do is talk about drones on the farm in 2023. We do this every single year. We kind of make a list of how people are using drones, talk a little bit about how things have possibly changed in the last year. But if you've seen some of those past videos, this might be a little bit of repeat because some of these things just consistently pop up. So we're going to start by talking about spraying drones. That's right, drones that can spray. Now just think about that. Think about what you could do with a drone that could spray. Maybe you work in mosquito mitigation of some sort. Think about what a drone could do for you. Obviously, people are using them in agriculture to spray their crops. And these drones just keep getting bigger and bigger. So we've got everything from the T10, which is relatively small. It's going to cover 10 to 12 acres in an hour if you've got your operation down right. But that is a relatively small drone. It's still giant compared to any other drone you've probably seen in real life, but it is the smallest in the DJI AgGrass line of spraying drones. So a great way to get started in it is with the DJI AgGrass T10, and you can go up. There's the T20P, there's the T30, and there's the T40. Each time you take a step up in the drone numbers, it's also increasing the acreage that it can handle, and it's also increasing the size of the drone. So they say the DJI AgGrass T40 can cover between 40 and 50 acres per hour. Now we're starting to cover some pretty serious acreage when you're talking about the T40. You could potentially use the T40 on like a medium-sized farm and potentially get everything that you need. Maybe not have to do ground spraying, maybe not have to have an airplane swoop down and do its thing. So spraying drones, that's number one on my list because I think that is going to really change the way people farm in the near future. We're seeing more and more of it. A lot more interest in the spraying drones themselves, especially in the agriculture field. Like I said, there are people outside of agriculture. Golf courses are using spraying drones. A lot of colleges are using spraying drones to teach their curriculum now. I mean, we've sold to schools like Purdue University. We've sold to Mizzou. We've sold to LSU. I could go on and on. University of Illinois. That's a great thing for the future of this industry is that they are actually teaching students how to use these spraying drones right now. So those kids that are going to inherit the family farm one day, these drones are not going to be foreign to them. They are absolutely going to know what to do with these drones and how they're going to improve efficiency on their farms. All right, next up is spreading. That's right, you can put a spreader on all of these drones. So from the T10 all the way up to the T40, you can put a spreader on it. So you're gonna be able to spread like grass seed or cover crops or anything that you can think of that'll fit in this hopper, you're gonna be able to use as a spreader. We've even used it here on our location to melt ice. We actually put the rock kind of ice melt into one of the drones and actually used it to spread the salt to melt the ice on our driveway. So all sorts of different things that you can use with a spreading drone. But this is another one, lots and lots of interest in drones that can actually do spreading because people start thinking about what can a drone do? And I encourage you to leave it in the comments. Let me know, like, what would you do with a drone that could actually spread material, whether it be seed or salt or whatever you can come up with in your head. What would be a good use for that? Why would you use a drone that sprays or spreads to do that job instead of sort of doing it the traditional way? All right, so we'll move on from the giant spraying drones onto drones that really do work in several different industries and are really kind of meant for different industries, but also work in farming. So I want to talk about crop scouting. You could use something like the DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise, the M3E, to do things like crop scouting. Because not only are you getting that nice Micro Four Thirds sensor on that drone, which is excellent for mapping and all sorts of different stuff, but you're also getting a zoom camera on there that can go up to 56 times. So if you're trying to look into your crops and you don't necessarily want to get real close to it, but you want to look at it, it's on your back 10 acres, you don't feel like driving driving out there, you can take the drone up and you can, not only get really close to it by flying low, but you can actually use that zoom lens as well to take a look at those crops. So crop scouting is a great thing. We've actually got some clients in the crop insurance industry. They are using DJI drones to do their crop insurance inspections. Next up is livestock monitoring. Now, in this regard, I would use something like the DJI Mavic 3 Thermal or the DJI M30T. Both of these drones have thermal on them. Really, the big deciding factor, I think, in my mind, is if you need something that's a little bit weatherproof or not. Because if you do, you're going to want to go with the M30T. But both of these drones have high-resolution thermal on it. And what does that mean? That means you can get these drones up in the air even in the middle of the night, and you can go and see the heat signatures of your cattle. Because the thermal imaging on these drones actually reads heat signature, you can have the drone up in the air from quite a distance actually, and you can literally count everything that has a heat signature on the screen. And you can also count things that aren't supposed to be there. So say you've got predators out there, you get the drone up in the air and you're able to look over towards your livestock, you might just see something that isn't supposed to be there. So using a thermal drone on the farm for livestock monitoring is a really great idea. Now, I mentioned that one is weatherproof, one is not. The M30T is around $16,000. It is waterproof, and there are a bunch of other features, a bunch of other upgrades with that drone that you get. The Mavic 3T is around $6,000, so that is a great value. If you're not worried about flying in inclement weather, it can still fly in like the cold and it can still fly in heat, but it cannot fly in any sort of precipitation. But if that is not a big deal to you, then absolutely on your farm, the Mavic 3 Thermal is the way to go. Next up is cross-pollination. And you're going, well, why? How do you use a drone to do cross-pollination? Well, we've got a client that actually does hybrid corn. The way that works is might be 2 rows of female corn and then 1 row of male corn. You need the wind to cross-pollinate that corn. If there isn't any wind, that's a big issue. Say you happen to have a growing season where there's just not a ton of wind. You're kind of screwed at that point because your crop is not going to be very good at all. So the idea that he had was to take one of the bigger DJI drones and fly low over those crops to disrupt them and actually cross-pollinate them himself without having to wait for Mother Nature to send a gust of wind along to cross-pollinate them. So I thought that was really interesting, a really creative way to use a drone for agriculture. I believe he was using the Matrice 300 to actually do that, which again is sort of the top of the line in enterprise drones. You're looking at closer to $30,000, depending on what kind of payload you want to put on it, because it can take several different kinds of cameras and payloads. But I believe that was the drone that he was using to actually do the cross-pollination. Next up is checking the health of your crops. Now, you can use the DJI Mavic 3 Multispectral to actually fly over your crops and get a bird's eye view of the health of those plants. It uses several different cameras to collect light that we can't actually see with our naked eye, and that'll tell your crop analyst what is going on with certain parts of your field. So they might say, okay, this part over here, it needs more water. This part of your field over here needs more fertilizer. This part of your field over here needs this or that. So it's essentially a way to get ahead of things. The cameras that are on this drone are going to be able to see it before you're able to see it with your naked eye, like I said. So you're actually beating it to the punch. You're getting there before it gets too dried out because it's been underwatered. You're beating it to the punch by adding fertilizer ahead of time before you can actually see that it needs more fertilizer. So using the DJI Mavic 3 Multispectral is a great way to use a drone on your farm and a great way to tell the health of your crops. Next up is weed detection and eradication. Now, in a video, this was probably 6-8 months ago, we went to Texas to the Mendota Ranch. They've got a great YouTube channel. I'll link to that down in the comments. But they came to us with an interesting idea. They've got a ton of weed trees around this gigantic ranch. I want to say it's like 11 or 12,000 acres that they've got down there. But these weed trees suck the life out of all the other plants. So they use something like the DJI Mavic 3 Multispectral to fly around this giant ranch and actually indicate where these weed trees are. So they were able to use the software, use DJI Terra along with the drone to indicate where these different weed trees are so they can go back later and actually get rid of the weed trees. Now, there were hundreds or thousands of these weed trees all over this ranch. But what they were able to do is take the information they put into DJI Terra, upload it to one of the spraying drones, and the drone would actually go out and drop pesticide on those different weed trees. Now, they came up with their own pesticide solution, which was really incredible, and it's proprietary. Not a lot I can tell you other than it's in the size of like a paintball, and they drop it around the tree. So pretty cool that they're doing this, and they found a really good way to use a drone on their ranch to get rid of these weeds. All right, finally, I want to talk about mapping and irrigation. You can use a drone like the Mavic 3 Enterprise to do high detailed maps, to do maps that are centimeter level accuracy if you're using RTK. And I'm talking about maps that you can do actual measurements from, accurate measurements from. So very, very cool technology, but you can use these drones on your farm to map the property. You're gonna be able to see how it changes over time. You're gonna see where water flows on your farm so that you can make changes if you need to do that. If you need to stop the water from flowing in a certain direction, or you need to stop it from going somewhere, you're gonna be able to do that. You're gonna be able to use these drones to take an overall view of your property. You're gonna be able to zoom right in on those maps and take a good look at the terrain and see exactly what is going on. So mapping and irrigation, that's something drones are great at doing on the farm. And like I said, you could update it every week if you wanted to and see the change gradually as it goes along. All right, so that was a pretty short list. I'm sure there's more. You guys send me your comments. Let me know how you would use a drone on your farm. What would you do with it? Get the ideas going in your head, because that's really what this is all about. The truth is, the drone industry is still the wild, wild west. We're just starting out. So people, as soon as they get that remote in their hand, they start going, what could I do with this? And that's exactly what you should be doing on your farm. Looking around, seeing how you might be able to streamline things, how you can do things more affordably. Drones are definitely the future, but it's starting to happen very, very quickly. So it's time for you to get in on it. Make sure you reach out to us if you're interested in buying one of these drones. We're happy to talk to you about it, go through all the features, answer any questions you might have. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. It helps us keep this channel going. We hope you stop by again. We'll see you next time.